Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Estie Hess, and we are back for another episode of On and Off the Spectrum. I have to apologize, though, this evening because my partner, Dr. Ann Kirsch, called in not too long ago. She was under the weather and extends her apologies and wanted very much to send regards to our lovely guest who actually has been back with us before. This is Uma Nambiar, and Uma actually was our first guest to be interviewed on our podcast. At that point, we had some less than sophisticated technology, which we have rectified rather. And so I wanted to really have a chance to see you clearly and enjoy once again your wit and your wisdom in terms of what you have offered the world with your very special book that we're going to be discussing tonight. First off, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Okay, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you very, very much for joining me once again. Um, so Uma, you and I know each other for several years, and but I never knew you as an authoress. And so this was a relatively new venture for you. You have written a wonderful book called The Sun, most is for our audience, for the Sun and Me. And it is your journey with something called sunflower syndrome. So, if you wouldn't mind once again sharing with our audience what that syndrome is all about and your personal experience. And I know you are a twin, and perhaps sharing some of her story as well. And I'd love to continue to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely, yeah. Sunflower syndrome is a really rare, not as much rare as rare anymore, but it is still pretty rare. It's a rare type of epilepsy where whenever someone goes out in the sun, their brain has many seizures, so that would prevent them from going into the sun. And me and my twin sister got diagnosed with sunflower syndrome when we were young, like around 3 or 4 years old. Um, and that really did prevent us from I would say like living the childhood experience of like going to the beach, going to birthday parties. A lot of childhood is spent outdoors and we didn't really have that opportunity because of the seizures.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's kind of our experience with that and what sunflower syndrome is in a nutshell.
hmm What was the inspiration for you to write the book and then write it at this point? You wrote it, I think, just as you were about to enter your freshman year of college.
Yeah. Um, I honestly have always wanted to write something about it. Um, I think it's really important that there's some data out there about it. When we were going through sunflower syndrome before we found the medication that helped control it, there was not a lot of research like at all.
Mm,
My parents would have to call like plenty of doctors around the world. It was very hard, um, kind of first of all finding out what we had, and second of all finding a cure for it.
mm,
Um, and because of that, I realized as I got older, there are still kids who have sunflower syndrome, and there's still not a ton of research. Yes, there's more, but there's not a lot.
mm.
So I wanted to contribute something to that. I also do really like writing, so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to kind of service a community that I really care about, um, and combine that with something that I really like doing. So then I had this idea to write a children's book about it, just not really as like a research data type thing, but more of just an awareness thing. So this book really is the target audience is for kids mostly who have sunflower syndrome and other rare diseases. And I really hope it's kind of a beacon to make them feel less alone and know that there is hope out there. And they're not stuck in this kind of lonely and isolating time.
That's what I want to mention because, first off, the book is marvelous and it is informative for parents and clinicians, but I think it's really, really great for kids. And I was struck by the fact that you've made it very reasonable. You talk about some of the fears and concerns about just going to a doctor in general, much less going to a doctor when you have something going on in your body that neither you nor your parents nor most physicians really understand. And I was really impressed with using the format of a child's story to tell your story.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you remember as a child, though, some of the challenges you mentioned, something really poignant about, especially you grew up in California, so the weather for the most part is good year round, and you really weren't able to go out and enjoy the world the way that most children do. How did your parents cope and accommodate?
I think it was definitely really hard for them because although all children don't have like a normal
Yeah.
experience, we definitely didn't have a normal experience. Like looking back in hindsight, I think it was a really, they probably were looking at other parents and families and like seeing how they didn't have to go through the same things we did. Because we had to go through lengths. We had to like cover our car door windows so the sunlight wouldn't get in when we would go on drives. We would wear sunglasses, um, visors. They would always our when we had a seizure, our hand would go like that. So when we walked across the street, our parents would always have to hold our hand. Um, and the amount they spent quite a lot of money in the medical process, like finding doctors, procedures, um, like treatments, medicines. It was a very like I would say it was a very interesting period for them to go through. And looking back, I think it was definitely a very different one for most families.
Do you think having a rare neurological condition has shaped you in a certain way in terms of um, career choices? You mentioned that you have always liked to write. Um, how do you think having this experience has made a difference? Well, in comparison, first off to your sister and then to your friends and peers in general.
I think it has, um, I think it just made me really grateful to be where I am right now.
Mm,
Um, it took like it took a while to find the medication that I'm on right now, and I think I've been on it now for a very long time, and it's been under control since I was like 10 or 11 years old.
hmm
Um, so I've had a seizure in a very long time, which I'm very grateful for. And I'm able to go in the sun now regularly, which is very, especially now as a freshman in college, it's like very amazing that I'm able to do that.
mm.
Um, I don't know. I think it's just like it's not something that I talk to a lot of people now. It's not like now in college, not a lot of people know this fact about me that I had sunflower syndrome, but I think just internally that it makes me more grateful for things that I'm able to do.
Mm-hmm. Have you discussed it with your twin?
I haven't really like I mean, I feel like we both went through the same thing very similarly.
Mm.
So, and we were very young, so we didn't really have like discussions about that. I don't think we've ever really like truly discussed what it was like. Yeah.
That's fair. I'm just curious in terms if you've seen your life veer in a certain path, maybe different from hers as a consequence of this very rare disease. And one of the points of this podcast project that we're doing is to help families cope when, for example, they get a diagnosis of some kind of medical or mental health diagnosis for their child, and what to do next. And I, you know, I wondered, have you mentioned that you didn't speak about this in regards to your sister. Have you ever talked about this with your parents, in terms of their strategies or their reactions to this whole experience of having a relatively rare disease for not one but both of their daughters, and how they proceeded?
Yeah, definitely. They've definitely mentioned quite a few times how lucky that they feel that we're able to kind of live this life right now that we have and to go to college. You know, my mom has said multiple times how she like honestly when we were younger she didn't think we would ever go to college. So throughout this whole college application process last year at this time she was she just kept on saying how grateful she was that we were able to have this opportunity.
Mm,
Um, sorry. I think they definitely have, as the parents of us, I think they're definitely a lot more, in hindsight, they have more perspective on how um privileged we are now.
So it's funny because I think a lot of families do look at that college application period like, oh my gosh, another application, the
Yeah.
cost, the time, the effort. And here's your mom going, how great, that
Yeah,
we actually
yeah.
get to do application. So it sounds like it puts things very much in perspective for you. And I'm also appreciative of the fact you said something very important. You don't really talk about sunflower syndrome, and it's not something that people that you bring up with friends. You're in a brand new college experience. I hope it's going well, first off.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, you're having a good time. I'm glad. Um, you know, do you ever find yourself finding a reason to bring it up in conversation with anyone?
I mentioned it to my roommate for, I mean, like for medical reasons in case anything happened, but I
Mm.
honestly don't, besides that, like I don't really feel the need to bring it up. Because not because like I'm ashamed of it or anything, just more it's not like I feel like there's no need to like bring that up unless it comes up in some way. Um, I don't know, it's like in the past, it's not something I like I'll happily talk about it, but it's not something that I normally bring up like by itself. Just because it's like I don't know. Just because like I doesn't I feel like there's not really a pressing need to let everyone I know that I just met here like what I went through in the past.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think, the bigger picture message is at this point, it doesn't define you.
Yeah.
So it's not something that comes up, and I can understand telling a roommate, because just in case, you see something weird, let me tell you what it is, and,
Yeah, exactly.
be prepared and so forth. But it is not something that actually, I think, made makes your existence now what it is, in contrast to the fact that um, things were so very different in the early part of your childhood. And again, what you had said earlier in the conversation, which I think is very poignant, you're just like every other college student. You get to go out in the sun and experience university life and just enjoy yourself. And it's not even in part of your lexicon to say, oh, I once dealt with something so serious that I couldn't even go out and enjoy, a fellow friend's birthday party, if it was done in the daytime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you speak a little bit to also how your parents adjusted life for everyone in the family when you were younger?
There was definitely a lot of adjustments. I think they were always very supportive of us, and it was although it was hard, they would definitely like they kept saying very supportive things like no matter what, we love you, like just things like that. But they kept on saying that. I think that really helped just hearing your mom and dad say that to you every night, especially when you're going through something like that.
Mm.
Um, and they also, even though like we knew that they obviously had to change our lives as a family, like pretty tremendously in order to fit what was going on. They never really mentioned it, and I think that was important because that to some point made us feel more normal.
Mm.
Um, they just it was like our family, and that's the stuff we had to do to be a family. And I think that was really helpful that they didn't really bring light to it. And if they did, they were very positive and kind about it. Um, and there was no like annoyance or irritation in their tone.
So what I'm hearing basically is they normalized all of the adaptations that they had to do, because I do remember, having had the privilege to spend some time with you when you were younger, that basically they had to turn day into night and night into day, in the context of being able to, um, adapt to. You were homeschooled, I think, weren't you, for a part of the time?
We were actually not homeschooled. We did go to
Okay.
school.
Oh, you
Yeah.
did go to school. Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay. Um, but so what were some of the other accommodations though that your parents were able
Um,
to do in terms of modification?
I mean, we had like blackout shades throughout the windows on the house, like the shades in the windows on the car windows.
Mhm.
Um, like I don't know. I think there was just a lot of different things like that. Like we had like sunroof windows, so we had to black those out as well. Honestly, other than that, it was just like more the mentality. I think that they really had it have a uplifting and positive mentality. Um,
And
but
if
yeah,
I
I don't think it was anything more like physical than that.
and if I'm trying to remember, but I do think that it wasn't also I think you were very blessed that it wasn't just simply parents, you also had extended family that were extremely supportive. Could you
Yes,
could
correct.
you speak to that for a moment?
Yeah, I think everyone was very supportive. No one was not supportive, and I think that was very helpful as well. Um, like when my parents especially needed help or when they were away, we always had like our grandparents would come down to take care of us or friends, family friends. Everyone was extremely supportive. All my friends that are my age, they like even though it was probably hard for them to understand what was going on, they accepted it and they would also hold my hand in the playground. Um, they wouldn't make fun of me, which I was really grateful for.
Hmm.
I think having that environment with all the people I knew and loved really helped me like feel normal.
So I think you're talking about this really wonderful secret ingredients to getting through hard times. It's having the support of people who love you, family, friends, people who do not tease you, but rather, in fact, help you. So if they saw, for example, that putting your hand in front of your face was something that might harm you in some fashion, either in terms of stimulating a seizure episode or preventing you from looking both ways as you cross the street for safety, even your young friends would pick up your hands and say, "Come on, I'll hold your hand," and no, they normalized your
Exactly.
situation, and there was an ever-present, more or less like a fountain of love, and just in terms of saying, "We love you, we support you." I also didn't hear any kind of um false hope, like, oh, for sure we're going to get find a cure, because there was certainly an uncertainty, I
Yeah.
think, as when you were younger. But then you were very blessed to have parents who were very tenacious and they actually did find something. How long did it take to actually find the right
It took
medication?
about 7 years.
A long time.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you be your takeaway for families who've discovered, whether it's sunflower syndrome or another kind of unusual or rare medical or psychiatric condition that their family is now facing, to get through it? To get through it, both, the advice that you might give to a mom and dad, and then maybe to someone who was a young child like you were. What would you want to say? So maybe two, or I'm not sure if it's the same or different message, but messages to these two very different sets of family members.
I think to children, I would say, even if you don't know it, like keep your head up. And even though it might be hard, talk about it and be open about what you are feeling with the people you love, because that can really help.
Hmm.
Um, and just know, even though if you don't feel necessarily normal, that like nobody is normal. So whatever you're going through is completely fine. And it doesn't make you an outcast of any kind. It just makes you unique and special. And I think for parents, I don't know, there's so many things parents can do. I think, like I mentioned, just having a really positive attitude towards their children, and kind of normalizing it. Yeah, not just normalizing it, I think explaining to the children what they have and not just casting it away and making it like obvious to them that they have something, but explaining to them what they have and not just making it seem like it's an inconvenience or something small. Um, I think honestly just, like, having a really positive attitude and just being very kind and supportive towards your children.
Wonderful messages, and I appreciate that both from the perspective of uh, you being a young person and somebody who has the wisdom to look at parents and say, you know, take my own parents' guidance as a goalpost for yourselves. So wonderful. Before we end our evening, I would love to talk just for a moment. Your illustrator was wonderful. Is that a particular friend or just a random
I
person?
found her online and she did an incredible job. I'm very happy.
Wow. Wow. She really did. How did you describe what you needed from her? Because it
She
really, she really captured the whole look of yourselves as children
she
and
really did, yeah. I sent her some photos of what we looked like, and then she sent me a couple of prototypes, and then we went from there, and she just was incredible. I'm very lucky I chose her. It was kind of like a spur of the moment thing. I was researching different illustrators. Um, I looked at her portfolio, I liked her work, so I emailed her, and she was very quick. She got, like, us illustrations, like, within a few weeks, and it was just she was incredible. I'm very, very grateful.
that's amazing. I'm so glad. It's just a beautiful, beautiful book. Um, a couple more questions. What are your plans for your book? I know you had talked a little bit about perhaps being able to present at various book festivals.
Yes, that too, continuing to sell it, continuing to talk about it,
Hmm.
um, spreading the message.
Okay.
Yeah,
And are you planning to write anything else?
I hope so. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do in the future, but I do hope writing is part of it.
Okay, so nothing in the works just yet.
Not in the works.
Okay, I appreciate it. Well, I have to share, this has been a delightful evening. Thank you again for rejoining
Thank
us.
you.
This is Dr. Estie Hess, and this has been On and Off the Spectrum with our special guest this evening, Uma Nambiar, and her wonderful, wonderful book, My Journey with Sunflower Syndrome, The Sun and Me. This is available on Amazon.
Yes, on
Okay.
Amazon.
All right. So please get yourself a copy. And we look forward to hearing great things from this young lady. I want to wish you continued wonderful things at university. And
Thank
thank you
you.
again.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Pleasure. Take care.
You too.
Bye bye.